Hello, today we are going to look at the operating system Novell NetWare, the latest version 6.5 SP8 from the year 2009. This is an operating system that's meant for servers, runs on IBM PC hardware, and contains software offerings such as a directory service, which is used for managing users, computers in a tree-like structure with all of the details possible about a user, such as name, first name, email addresses, phone numbers, etc. And then there's a file server based on NetWare volumes with file sharing. There's an email system, Java application server, which is a HTTP server, a Apache HTTPD, MySQL, PHP suite. Let's see how it looks like by default. This is the way it looks like. When the operating system starts, it asks if you want to start the X11 server. I answered yes, and this is what we get. It's an X server, and it's running the IceWM window manager. This is the start menu. Extremely few graphical user interface applications available by default. There's some applications which are pinned into the taskbar, and then there's a clock. Let's look at the applications which are pinned in here. We have a file search application and a server console. This server console allows you to see the consoles which are displayed by different NLMs, where NLM is a NetWare loadable module, which is a kernel mode binary. So it's a binary which is loaded in kernel mode, which might be an executable, might be a shared library. In here we can see that the module fl_enter.nlm was loaded, and this is what we're seeing, this thing. It's written in FLTK and Java. We can see that in here. This is the FLTK Fast Light Toolkit, which is a graphical user interface toolkit, which exists, for instance, in Linux. And this is the icon from that toolkit, or the OK Enter button. This is the wiki page for this toolkit, Fast Light Toolkit, C++, 1998 first release. It wants to be a lightweight, a more lightweight toolkit than Qt, for instance. This is some screenshots. Okay. There's more than one console. You can switch between consoles either using this button, the next or the previous, or you can switch from this combo box. Let's see what's available. So this is the logger screen. This is from the NetWare operating system. In here it says that the NLM, which is again a kernel mode binary, was just loaded fl and term.nlm. So this is it. It's using Java, it's using FLTK. Let's go to the next one. This is the Apache, I don't know, maybe standard output, standard error with minimal logging configured, from what I can understand. Apache HTTPD version 2.0.63 for NetWare with mode JK. And again, support for Java, PHP, MySQL. This thing, I do not know what it is. WTM. Quick Finder Server Console. Not sure. It runs an infinite loop searching for something. MySQL database prompt. Extend application server. This is a Java HTTP application server. Says that it's serving at localhost port 83. The local computer is, I have named it NetWare1. So that's why it says http://netware1:83. This is the first console, the system console. And the second one is the logger screen. You can also switch through the consoles using the Control Escape or Alt Escape. Let's go back to where we were. So it says that the current possible screens are 3 screens which are hidden. Screen 3, 5, and 7. Novell SSL for OpenSSL. Apache 2 Web Manager. And pkernel 7. And in order to get back to the X11 server, you want to type in 11 and press enter. Okay, Alt Escape shows the log. Alt Escape cycles through the possible consoles. Okay, so if you want to run a command line, you either use this graphical user interface application and start writing at this prompt, or you go Control Escape and select 1, press enter. Or the third option is to go to the rescue console and start an additional console from there, and then you can run commands until you enter the command BYE. B-Y-E. Let's go back to 11. In here, there's multiple subsystems inside NetWare. There's a DR-DOS, Digital Research DOS subsystem, which you can exit to, so you can stop the NetWare kernel and go back to DOS. There's a separate partition for DR-DOS, which is called C:. We can look at it by using this application, which is the graphical user interface application web browser. We can go to the log screen, and we can see that the file search, so this button, is a Java application. This thing, com.novell.application.filesearch.filesearch display. There's a web browser. There's a console. We will see that. And there's this file browser. Okay, so C: is for DR-DOS. So not MS-DOS, not PC-DOS, not IBM-DOS, but DR-DOS. Very similar. Then there's a colon, which is for the floppy disk. I do not have any floppy disk. And then there's syscolon, which is for the so-called server, so for the more elevated NetWare operating system, so not the DOS environment, with its loadable kernel modules. So let's see some of these modules. So syscolon slash or backslash. It uses the slash separator for directories or backslash quite interchangeably. And the operating system is probably also case insensitive. We'll see about that. So there's this syscolon backslash system directory. There's at least 1000 LNMs, NLMs. PHP has this installation directory, syscolon backslash PHP5. There's Perl. There's syscolon backslash Java with this important executable java.nlm. And then on top of this, there's an overlay which looks like a Unix operating system. And we can get at it, for instance, by starting the GNU Bash shell. So we can do that by going to the system console and we just write bash in here. We see that it has loaded two NLMs, bash.nlm and the C library libc.nlm. Okay, in bash we have access to some Unix-like commands or commands from the executables from the minimum list of Unix-like operating systems. So a minimum Unix user space. So we have bash, we have sh, which is also bash, we have ls. Let's look a bit at the Wikipedia page. Let's look at NLM, NetWare Loadable Module. Was added in NetWare version 3, previous to NLMs. If you wanted to run a different network interface card driver or a storage driver or another process, such as a server process, I don't know, service process, you needed to recreate the kernel image by relinking the kernel. After NLMs were introduced, all of these things could be the hardware drivers and server services could be just NLM files which are loaded into kernel mode when needed. When you load an NLM, that might load other dependency NLMs. So once an NLM is loaded into kernel mode, that might add additional commands to the vocabulary of known commands of the network kernel. We will see that immediately. There's a list of command lines which were added by different NLMs, which we can inspect. And there's an SDK, software development kit, with a C compiler and kernel API for creating these NLM files. The memory protection between the kernel mode modules used to be non-preemptive cooperative, so DOS style. By having an infinite loop, you would take off the computer, and then protected address spaces was added in NetWare 5, a limited form of memory protection. Okay, so that's about the server, and then on the individual client computers which were running, for instance, MS-DOS or Windows 3, you would have a client, the Novell client software that you install on those operating systems. Let's look at the list of features. We're going to look in descending order. So from newest NetWare version to the oldest. There's support for USB. Extend is the Java Enterprise Edition application server. There's many features which are similar to the Windows Active Directory. There's domain controller. There's graphical user interface tools for managing the domain server, the directory server. A web UI for accessing your email and your storage. There's GNU Bash, wget, grep, oxed, etc. As we said, the stack with Apache, HTTPD, PHP, MySQL. There's the OpenSSH server. Okay, WebDAV, which is an HTTP server that you can write to. FTP server, network news server for Usenet, web search server. There's web UI, application for managing the system. There's a web browser, which is written in Java. Novell cluster services, support for storage SAN, DNS server, DHCP server, console 1, a Java-based graphical user interface administration console. Many of the web-based UIs and graphical user interface applications are actually Java applications. NetWare file system and Novell storage services file system, so two file systems. GUI is the X server and IceWM. TCP/IP, the current networking stack. Previously there was IPX, SPX. The Netscape browser is not bundled anymore. Okay, let's go back to Novell NetWare, the virtual machine. So it's running in an Oracle VM VirtualBox. It cannot be installed that correctly on QEMU KVM. So I needed to install it in Oracle VM VirtualBox. So back to the minimal Unix userland. Let's look at the possible commands. How do we make this larger? We can't. But there's paginators, there's more and there's less. Less is a NLM. /usr/bin is actually sys:\usr /bin /less.nlm. Let's go to this file in the file browser. So sys, scrolling with the mouse does not work. USR, bin, and then what was that? Less. This one. 400 kilobytes. So we can, let's see if we can paginate through the list of executables which are in the path environment variable. It lists not only executable files, but also INI files and HTML files, directories, everything. Okay. What else do we have? We have clear. We have what else? Free df. So df is the first command that I have encountered out of who and free and df. So says that there's a partition with 31% usage mounted on slash for the Unix subsystem, and in NetWare that's sys:// or sys:// again. Slash and backslash is kind of the same in NetWare. I have seen it written both ways. Okay, so there's Vim. Vim, you can run it inside Bash, or you can just start it. Where is it? This guy. If you execute it, it will actually load as a NLM inside the kernel mode, and it will create a new console which is named VI improved. And in here you can open files and do VI things. Let's see what happens if we exit out of this process. The process is probably, the NLM is probably unloaded from the memory, or it's just stopped. The kernel mode Vim process was probably just stopped. Because I cannot see the VI improved console anymore. Let's see what the logger says. It says that it has loaded vim.nlm, says the version. I'm not sure why it says Free Software Foundation. VIM, from what I know, it's not part of the FSF. Okay. Where were we? In the system console. Not in here. Okay. Where else? We have the environment variables which are available to Bash. Let's paginate with less. So there's the things you would expect from Bash on Linux, but this is Bash on NetWare. There's a man path, a path, a old PWD, a PS1, which is the Bash prompt. There's two paths in here. There's this one, which is path, and then there's NW path, NetWare path. So NetWare paths are separated with semicolon, similar to MS-DOS. Paths are separated with colon, similar to Unix. Path contains Unix style paths, which start at slash and use the slash directory separator and everything's lowercase, whereas NW path, everything's uppercase, backslash instead of slash, and syscolon instead of slash. So slash bin in here is syscolon backslash bin, which I don't see. This thing, syscolon backslash bin. And because software, some large software packages such as PHP, Perl, and Apache 2 are installed straight into slash, which is syscolon backslash. The path environment variables, NW path and path, needed to be longer to also contain all of the bin directories from these places. So from the syscolon backslash Java, syscolon backslash Perl, syscolon backslash PHP file, etc. Tomcat, the Apache Java HTTP application server. Inside the less paginator, you can use the keyboard arrow keys, so up and down. Space also works. Page up and page down. Q to exit the paginator less. Okay. Let's look at some more of the applications which are available. Start menu, console 1, splash screen, Java application, for configuring the directory service server. Similar to the MMC in Windows, there's snap-ins. These are the snap-ins available, which you can load in this console. And both the graphical user interface management tools and the web UI management tools allow you to connect to other computers than the current one. Application Server Management Console. extend. So this is for the Java HTTP application server. The amount of random access memory and CPU threads is extremely limited. I'm using just one CPU thread and 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. All of the HTTP URLs are dead. They're of type HTTP, not HTTPS. And Novell.com doesn't really promote NetWare anymore, and the website has been completely changed. But this is the web browser that we have. It's written in Java. It's actually the ICE browser /6.1.2, which is a third-party application. And in here it's branded as NetWare Remote Manager. So it doesn't say, I don't know, NetWare Web Browser, but NetWare Remote Manager. And has this main menu item where it lists the NetWare servers that it knows of, and localhost is available in this main menu. So under NetWare Remote Manager application, main menu servers, choose the name of the current server. It asks if you want to recognize the self-signed certificate authority, and you should do. And it starts the HTTPS web UI for managing the current network server. Let's change the resolution of the X11 server to get more real estate. So the start menu, settings, graphical user interface, environment. Let's switch to the next resolution. So it was 800 by 600. We'll go to 1024 by 768. Let's see if we can also improve the color. Save current configuration. It says that it needs to restart the graphical user interface. So it doesn't restart the entire operating system, just the X server. Okay, so now we have better colors and a bit more screen real estate. Let's go back to where we were. When X11 was restarted, the processes were lost because the NetWare Remote Manager has closed. So let's go back to where we were. In here we can see the two partitions or three partitions. So there's A, which is the floppy drive, C:\/ is for the minimal PC-DOS partition, 500 megabytes, two directories, DR-DOS and NW server. We can also see them in here. So this thing. How do we go back? I know. Let's see like this. Yeah, so we can navigate inside of the web browser back and forward. Okay, there's C colon backslash again for DR-DOS, and sys is with the directories where major software was installed, such as Java and PHP 5. And then there's Unix style USR directory, var directory, and a etc directory, which is this one. Probably because the file systems both are case insensitive, the casing is all over the place. So we can see in here etc with all uppercase, which makes zero sense. Whereas Bash has seen /etc as all lowercase. Okay, again, you cannot use the mouse wheel to scroll. And then, let's see. We go back. There's this admin. Which is, I don't know, maybe the home directory of the current user, because the current user is named admin and is in the group root. Let's actually prove that. So bash, who am I, groups, maybe this is it. We have cat and okay, what else can we configure inside this web UI? Let's see. There's graphs. Xvesa. So this is probably the X11 server. xvesa.nlm. System error log file. Sometimes after colon there's no slash or backslash, so sys colon and then straight the name of the directory. Sometimes it's sys colon slash the name of the directory. Sometimes it's sys colon backslash the name of the directory. Sometimes it's just sys colon and then the name of the directory. Manage the server. Volumes, the page where it started, the web UI. Partition disks. So there's two partition, the one for DOS, 500 megabytes, and the rest for a 8 gigabyte partition. I'm not exactly sure. It's the sys, this one, sys colon. It says that in order to get access to the consoles, because you're on this exact same machine, you can use Alt-ESC or Control-ESC. Probably if you're connected from Novell Remote Manager to another machine, in here you will have Java applets which show the actual consoles. common file system. These are the list of additional vocabulary, command line commands that were added to the NetWare operating system by just loading a NLM file. A very important one is server, which adds many commands. There's a restart server and magazine and bindery and help and CLS, which clears the screen, similar to MS-DOS. Display processors. Version, let's see what version does. Novell Open Enterprise Server NetWare 6.5. Is there a uname? Yes, it is, because it's a minimal Unix-like operating system running on top. So inside Bash. Pause config. Time. So some of the MS-DOS-like commands are provided by server.nlm. This sounds like WinSock 2, 32-bit from Microsoft. Okay, the shutdown command is actually provided by ACPI, power.nlm. This is an actual terminal written probably in Java, which is shown in this pop-up web browser window. You can get help for the commands. And if you do not load into kernel memory some of these NLM files, the respective command lines will not be available. So if you don't load a CPI power.nlm, the shutdown command will not be available. There's java.nlm, which provides what you would expect from a Java runtime environment and a Java development kit, so JDK plus JRE. So Java, the application which loads a Java application. Java-C, the Java compiler, so takes files with extension Java, returns files with extension class. libc, it was loaded automatically by Bash when I loaded Bash, and this provides the command env setenv and IPC. Okay. You can just restart the computer. There's shutdown, which is called down. There's restart, and then there's reset to do a warm boot, whatever that thing is. And being a server operating system that has been around for 30 years, it knows how to have multiple servers running in a tree, in a forest, with replication, with synchronization, with different roles on the different installation of Novell NetWare on different servers. So you might have two Novell NetWare servers which have the directory service, and then, I don't know, two different Novell NetWare servers which just run HTTPS servers with Java and Apache and MySQL and PHP. And different servers for storage. TCP/IP configuration. The operating system provides its own drivers for network interface cards. Since the operating system was released a long time ago, it might not have network interface cards for your drivers for your hardware. So you probably want to run it in a virtual machine. I have installed all of the possible NetWare packages that were available in the DVD installation media. That's why I have SSH and Tomcat and Extend and Apache, etc. This is the list of NLMs which are loaded into the kernel. Load date and time. Sorted. Descending. Let's sort it ascending. We can't. Okay, Bash and libc were the last ones. IceWM is the window manager, so this application which writes in here the coordinates, X, Y of the window and the size, provides this window border, provides the window title bar, provides the window icon in the title bar, this menu when you left click or right click, when you right click anywhere on the title bar, or when you left click on the icon. This functionality to minimize the window by rolling it up and restoring it. The functionality of maximizing and restoring, minimizing to the IceVM panel. Where were we? This one. And to close the application. Minimize to tray icon. Oh. And a window list. A similar window list existed in the OS/2 operating system. Okay, back to where we were. There's a registry. There's a ton of Java applications running. One CPU core and CPU thread. This is the network interface card driver, NetWare. This is PCNet3. The this thing, PCNet Fast 3, the network adapter from Oracle VM VirtualBox. PCI devices. There's a Active Directory, a NDS Novell NetWare Novell what's this? Directory service. There's users, groups, organizational units, A3, schemas, servers, everything that you would recognize if you have worked with Microsoft Active Directory. RSS feed and storage. ISCSI. Okay, so that's about all. You have a really limited list of graphical user interface applications which run inside X11, which is actually, what was that? I don't know, XVESA, which is managed by the window manager ISWM. The applications are these ones. There's a graphical user interface text editor, which is MDI. So you can edit multiple documents inside of the same process. A ton of the graphical user interface applications are actually Java. You can see them inside the logger when they log their name, where it says Java class com.novell.application.webbrowser.browser has started or exited. I'm not sure what this is actually. Maybe it's, I don't know, gedit or something. JEdit. Who knows? Resembles gedit. There's a file manager, which is called file browser. Probably also a Java application. I don't know how to list processes. So com.novell.application. There's the file search. We saw that. Remote manager is the web browser. Server console is this application that we can see right now. This is file search again. Does it actually work? I don't know. Let's see. Fine. Bash. It should be bash.nlm. And it's the first. Okay, it works. That's important. Okay. The applications are also available as pinned icons in the ISWM panel. Links to URLs from the novell.com website, which don't work any longer. The two graphical user interface administration software, SMC, Console 1, and then there's also rConsole.j, this thing, which again allows you to connect to different Novell servers from your organization. There's a bit of settings. There's a possibility to run commands. Let's see what that thing does. Yeah, it does what you would expect. So if you start the bash process, it I don't know, loads a second time the bash NLM into the kernel or something like that, or it just tells the existing bash.nlm inside the kernel, please create a new console. And then that is available from this combo box, or if you switch from here, or if you go Alt Escape and then you cycle with Alt Escape, or if you go with Control Escape and see the list of possible consoles. So now the indexes have changed. 11 used to be the X server and now 11 is bash, and then there's 2 more bash consoles. So now switching back to the X server is 12. So you can just write 12 and press enter, or you could go Alt Escape and switch. No, you cannot. 12. Okay, and then there's 3 operating systems side by side, a DR-DOS, a Novell, and then this Bash environment, which resembles Unix. And it can run some important open source server packages, PHP, Perl, MySQL, Apache, and Tomcat. It can run software which is for a server hardware from, there was software provided by Novell themselves, by IBM, and then that's about it. It's not really meant to be used as a graphical user interface, workstation, desktop operating system. You just install it in your organization, one of the many Novell NetWare servers, you configure them perfectly correctly, you connect them together, and then from there on, you connect all of your non-NetWare operating system computers to these servers, and the NetWare just runs as a headless server farm that provides services to your organization's computers. And you manage users, group, etc., centralized inside the NetWare servers. So now let's see how we install this operating system. So we will install Novell NetWare operating system, but not in QEMU Virt Manager, inside Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager, because in here it's just better. We select the DVD installer ISO, the largest file, more than 1 GB in size. We select the oldest operating system in here possible, which is IBM OS2 Warp 4.5. And we kind of keep the defaults. I don't know if it supports SMP symmetric multiprocessing. I don't know if it supports more than one CPU, more than one CPU core, more than one CPU thread. I don't know how much of the memory, random access memory supports. It's probably 32-bit operating system, so it might support 4 GB of RAM. I have seen that 8 GB of hard disk is more than enough to install all of the possible software. So this is what I went with, 8.5 GB for the hard disk, which must be IDE. And memory I went with 1.5 GB. Oldest motherboard, PIIX3, PS2 mouse, BIOS not UEFI, storage, everything should be ID, both the DVD drive and the netware.vdi. I'm keeping the default networking, which means that I can connect from the virtual machine to the internet, but then I have a hard time connecting from the host operating system to the guest operating system. So from my Linux Kubuntu 24.10 to the virtual machine, which is running Novell NetWare. It's booting from the DVD installer, splash screen, and we're in an environment which is similar to DOS, probably PC DOS. Asks for my location or keyboard to EULAs. I select the default type of installation, which just formats the available hard disk, doesn't ask about if I want MBR partition table or how many partitions, etc. So it says that it will create a 8 gigabytes sys:\/ partition. There's also space for a sys:\/ partition for DR-DOS. SVGA for graphical user interface. It's copying files from the DVD, which is probably z:\/ to the DOS, so c:\/ server. Okay. So this is a text user interface installer. It has found the network interface card has support for the network. Maybe even the first option would have worked, but I have selected the third option because again it has these three I's, the Roman number 3, which is the same thing that's available in the virtual machine in Oracle VM VirtualBox virtual machine settings. So this was the Novell NetWare driver for the network interface card. And now that it finished copying files to DOS, to c:\/ what was that? And W install temp or something. Now it's copying files from there, from DOS towards Novell, so NetWare, so towards sys:\/ There's some zip files, which will probably need to be extracted. The source is the zip files, so it's probably extracting right now. Yeah, it says unzipping. The installer is pretty fast. Again, I don't know how to improve the virtual machine. Does it support 4 gigabytes of RAM? Does it support 4 CPU threads? If so, then yes, the install speed would be even better. This is a graphical user interface part of the installer. It's running the XVESA, probably the X server and IceWM. In here you can select if you want a very specialized type of network installation. I said don't give me any specialized, install all of the possible software packages on this computer. So which means customized, and then I have selected all of the possible combo boxes in here. and the install will take a while, maybe half an hour. But this is the way it generally looks like. It's a splash screen or whatever, a list of images, a slideshow, and at the bottom right part there's a progress dialog. It's copying files for a while, and then it's installing packages, and then it does some different configurations for the different packages that I have selected to be installed. This progress dialog looks like Java. And from time to time, it also offers graphical user interface installer wizards, which are also probably written in Java. Asks for the computer name. I went with NetWare 1. I wanted the computer to be named NetWare, but then maybe that conflicts with something pre-existing inside of the operating system, so it's just better to use a unique string here. You cannot actually click anywhere on the wizard while it's progressing because you get that busy cursor. Once I have selected the protocol IP for the network interface card, it has connected to the DHCP server. It has collected the correct values from here, but it did not collect the correct value for IPv4 address. So I needed to research on the internet the DHCP server from Oracle VM VirtualBox for the default networking, which is LAN. And in there it says that this should be the IPv4 address 10.0.2.15. The rest of the values, subnet mask and router, gateway, DNS server, it's DHCP server, everything's okay. The only server is 10.0.2.2, which is again network gateway, DHCP server, DNS server, everything. It's actually the Oracle VM VirtualBox software, virtualization software. I picked something random in here. I try to stick to NetWare 1. I made up some domain. And for DNS servers, I went with the Oracle VM VirtualBox, so that's 10.0.2, and two well-known DNS servers 8.8.8.8 from the Google, and 1.1.1.1 from a CDN provider. I cannot prove that the DNS server works because I did not use the web browser to actually connect to an existing website. I use the web browser just to navigate towards the web user interface administration applications. So web UI applications to manage the NetWare server. In here I have selected New York time. It's not listed as New York time. It says US Eastern time. Okay, in here it says if we want to join an existing NetWare domain, so a directory server, we do not want, we want to create a new directory server tree, asks for a tree name and a context name. For the user, I've used admin, which is the default for many software packages and options. The default user is admin, and I kept the same password everywhere. But once you install Novell NetWare at least once the way I did it, you should note down the values that you want to actually use for the context, for the tree name, for the computer name, for the domain name, if you actually want to create a production installation of Novell NetWare. Write everything down and then stick to the plan. Reinstall Novell NetWare from scratch and respect what you wrote on that piece of paper. Renaming parts of a domain is a very complicated business after effect. So it's better if you research for a while, plan, and then reinstall from scratch following the plan. It asks if I want operating system licensings, which I do not want, but licensing is probably per user, and I do not have any users. I have just a built-in one, which is named admin. So licensing is server style, either there's some server software which is licensed per CPU thread, per number of concurrent connections, per number of users, etc. So that's a type of licensing which we also have for NetWare, which means that we can install the operating system without any problems, look through it, because it's not serving any existing connections or users, so it will not require any licensing. This is the MySQL settings. This is the application server, HTTP Java. I'm using the same user and password everywhere. Okay, the same password everywhere for this extend MySQL database. These things, it says it's optional, so I just kept the defaults. So this is centralized file sharing, similar to, I don't know, Google Docs. iFolder, Novell. Novell certificate server for private public key cryptography. Yep. You should wait a lot because again it takes tens of minutes, and once the installer pauses you will need to provide input as we did previously with the settings in the installer wizard. And in here it's installing packages. It says installing npm and then the name of that package. So I saw at least 20 npms being installed, which I guess it's a package manager format. Now the installation is complete. It asks that I reset, so I just shut down the computer and remove the ISO from the DVD drive, from the IDE DVD drive. I wait for the virtual machine to shut down correctly, completely. And then I see when it starts. Right now it starts in the bootloader, so I go fast and shut down the machine. Power off, okay. Storage IDE, and we remove this ISO from the DVD drive. And that's it. Now we start normally. No need for any ISO. It will start from the 8 GB virtual hard disk. A splash screen. And then at some point the startup sequence will stop and ask if you want to start the X window. You cannot resize the screen resolution until X server is started. It keeps booting. It's a server operating system. It will start all sorts of services in there. And it's using slow storage IDE, not SATA. Extend the Java application server HTTP. And now it asks start X question mark, and the option is Y. You can press enter or press the Y key and press enter then. Yes, it loads xinit.nlm. And this is it. This is how the operating system looks like by default. 256 colors, not 24-bit, and 800 by 600 resolution, which you should change if possible to a larger resolution and more colors. Go to 24-bit colors. This is IceWM. This is the start menu. There's a run option. Some applications are pinned to the IceWM panel. This is sys:/, which is the NetWare partition drive. And then there's a DOS partition drive, which is c:/. There's graphical user interface management applications such as this one written in Java, and then there's web UI. So graphical user interface, GUI, and web UI, web user interface, tools for managing your Novell NetWare systems. You can manage your current NetWare server or another NetWare server. These management tools allow you to specify the server that you want to manage. For displaying help, the application, graphical user interface application is again Java based. There's also a web browser that's Java based, and it's also used for displaying help contents. So there's a ton of help installed in the current operating system. There's no need to navigate towards the web. Navigating on the internet to see documentation about NetWare from the NetWare operating system is not that great because there's a ton of bookmarks and HTTP URLs in here, in Novell web links, for instance, and none of these URLs from 16 years ago work any longer. This is the web browser application named NetWare Remote Manager, which is written in Java, and it's a bot from a third-party provider, and web browser is named ICE browser. ICE, all uppercase, and then browser written in lowercase. Provided by icesoft.com, but it's a bundling deal where the Java source code was sold by icesoft.com to Novell, and Novell then bundled it into the operating system and rebranded it, and etc.